All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
Folks, this is an enormous news day. Obviously, there's a ton going on. You've seen wall-to-wall coverage of this, the Guthrie case. We have the Fulton County, Georgia affidavits have gone public. This morning, right as we were getting in the office, I was chatting with Guy and Justin, putting the show together. We have this FAA airspace situation in El Paso. I hope to be able to provide some color on, but folks, I'm outside now. I'm dealing with the same information you are and the same inputs. So I have some ideas. I'll try to put that together for you. As always with the show, when I'm speculating on something, it is an opinion show. I will say as much, but there really is a ton going on. I'm going to start with Fulton County, Georgia. You can always tell when the media is starting to freak out when they do the war on language routine. And remember, we were all election deniers. You guys remember that? And no one ever denied an election. We just thought there was something shady about the results. Why do I bring that up? Now that the FBI is involved in this Fulton County, Georgia case, and some of the information has now gone public, now they're starting to refer to people, I'm not kidding, you'll see in a tweet coming up in a couple minutes, as election skeptics, which is accurate. We were skeptical of the results, correct? I don't have a problem with that label at all. Election denier was some jerkwad media term that is totally inaccurate. No one denied there was an election. We were skeptical of the results. Why would the media be changing their language up? Maybe they read the same affidavit you all did. I'll show you some a John Solomon segment on Real America's Voice, where he goes into exactly this. We got a big, absolutely loaded show for you today. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be a busy hour plus today. Hey, I've seen how government programs work. There's so much waste and fraud and abuse. Thank God for the DOGE and President Trump's efforts to clean it up. It's really broken. One of the most broken systems I've been addressing on the show for a long time is Medicare. Most people think they're getting accurate information. Some Medicare agents might push Medicare Advantage plans because that's where the commissions are, not because they're actually best for you. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Chapter doesn't work for big insurance, and they don't take marching orders from Washington. They're independent. They can help walk you through every option: original Medicare, a supplement, Advantage, Part D, and they'll tell you exactly what you gain and what you give up and what it really costs. One woman, Jill, said her Chapter advisor showed her options. She didn't even see her on Medicare's own website. Doesn't that sound like a broken system to you? If you want more clarity, here's exactly what to do. Dial pound 250 on your phone. That's pound 250 and say Medicare help. The average senior who connects with Chapter saves about $1,100 a year just by getting honest advice. How about that? So if you're on Medicare or getting close, don't guess. Dial pound 250 and say Medicare help. That's pound 250 and say Medicare help. Thank you, Chapter. We appreciate it. All right, I got no time. Bell time. Ding, ding. Let's go. First, the El Paso incident that broke this morning. For those of you who may have missed it if you weren't watching the news, the airspace around the El Paso airport, AOR, when I say AOR, I mean area of responsibility, and the El Paso International Airport was as of this morning was going to be closed for 10 days. That appears to have now been rescinded. Jennifer Jacobs, I just saw this on Twitter, said it was triggered by Mexican cartel drones breaching U.S. airspace. An official told CBS News the War Department took action to disable the drones. Folks, again, when I'm speculating, I will tell you as much. However, it is an opinion show. It's only fair to levy an opinion. Don't ever call me a journalist. It's the biggest insult in the business. I don't want to be associated with these people, and neither should you. However, I've explained to you often that one of the first things Cash and I did when I got in the bureau was look at the drone program. It was not as far along, let's just say, as I think the threat was, okay? I don't want to over-dramatize it, but we allocated a ton of money over there. It's not a complicated thing to figure out. The drone threat isn't in the future. The drone threat's in the now. As I say often, human beings can't fly, so it creates a more difficult problem than, say, a land-based or an undersea-based attack. They all both have or a space-based attack. They all have unique issues that present themselves. Drones are a huge problem because they're cheaper too. Space-based attacks are expensive. So are underwater attacks. They present a lot of other problems. Ground assaults are tough. You need an invasion force and other things. Drones are a huge freaking problem. They are really cheap. It is asymmetric economic warfare too. For a couple $100, you can probably get a shitty drone and drop a grenade somewhere. And everyone, when they walk out of their house from this point on for the rest of their life, is going to be doing this, looking up. Just like we all did after 9/11 when we heard a low-flying plane. You remember that. Many of you do. I know I do. The Secretary of War and the President, I'm guessing, did an interdiction. I'm only speculating here, but I can imagine they detected this threat, this cartel threat you saw from some of the officials now giving information to the media. And I've told you the President and the Secretary of War are really decisive on this stuff. We're probably like, we're not shutting down this thing for 10 days. Shoot that shit out of the sky. Speculating. I'm just telling you, knowing how they work, that's probably along the lines of what happened. That just broke this morning. Hopefully I'll have some more information for you as the show goes on. Folks, it was an unbelievable news day yesterday for the administration. The liberal media is freaking out. Again, the jobs numbers that came out this morning, the inflation numbers, real median income numbers, the border numbers, the crime numbers are unbelievable. I mean, they're unprecedented. We haven't seen anything like this. Federal employment, government jobs down to the lowest level since 1966. Finally, some vindication for the election skeptics out there. Previously called, remember Prince, the symbol, previously known as Prince, to the artist previously known as election deniers, are now election skeptics. You know what? Put that tweet up first, guys. I'm going to keep talking about it. This is what the AJC, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Like, oh, this is kind of weird. Is Ms. Donna 69 at Ms. Donna 69? An interesting tone shift from the AJC after they read the affidavit in the Fulton County, Georgia election FBI raid. Instead of using the words election denier, they use the words election skeptics. The war on language, folks. When the left is starting to turn, you can bet your ass they read that affidavit and were like, holy Moses, these guys aren't crazy. Go look it up, by the way. If you think I'm making this up, to all the liberal goons who listen to my show and the other folks out there who like to align with the black pillars and the doomers who love to spread liberal narratives and try to get the concrete to harden. Go back and look. Put in Politico, Bongino, election denier. They used to write all these articles. Oh, he's an election denier. We used to laugh at them. I didn't deny an election. I'm skeptical of the election. Here's the great John Solomon and a piece he did. The affidavit goes public yesterday. Folks, there are, at minimum, I don't want to get ahead of the story. It'd be irresponsible. And unlike the left-wing media's characterization of this show, we don't get out ahead of anything. We've always applied the Bongino rule. Give stories some time. Don't be first, be right. But the affidavit is now public on a case that's been going on at the FBI for a while. I cut this segment into two parts. They're not very long each, but this is John Solomon yesterday discussing what is now public and how, at a minimum, folks, at a minimum, we're not going to get out ahead of it, there are significant irregularities in the Fulton County, Georgia vote count where a judge agreed there's probable cause that there's there. A judge agreed. This is not just hysteria. I think that's why you're seeing the tone change to election skeptics in the AJC. Here's part one of John Solomon on the clip. Check this out.
The affidavit that the FBI filed back in late January for probable cause for that raid on the Georgia Fulton County election warehouse. What the FBI says in that affidavit is extraordinary. It says it has, quote, substantiated, those are the exact words, that there were irregularities in the vote count in Fulton County. That is the Atlanta area, the largest urban center, the largest vote center in Georgia. FBI Special Agent Hugh Raymond Evans first filed the affidavit last month. It got unsealed today. It establishes the probable cause for that raid, where 700 boxes of 2020 election ballots were taken from a storage warehouse. After getting a referral, by the way, this is something we learned in the affidavit, the referral of this information, the specific credible evidence, came from the White House election integrity czar, a guy President Trump picked named Kurt Olson. Now, the FBI agent wrote in that affidavit that, quote, some of the allegations that were raised about the Georgia election have been disproven, while some of the allegations have been substantiated, including through direct admissions by Fulton County. I want you to stop and just think about that for a second. Fulton County is now admitting they did things inappropriately for the 2020 election. Doesn't mean the vote totals are going to change, but the way they counted and how they audited it and how they did the recount clearly in great concern.
I thought we were all election deniers. I thought everybody was full of shit when they said, hey, looks like there's something going on down there. Folks, I'm not messing with you. Go and read all the hit pieces done on me when I think we rather responsibly handled the 2020 post-election, where we were like, hey, I have a right as a freaking American citizen, I have a right to question the vote count. Turns out there was nothing there. There's nothing there. If the Fulton County case, by the time it makes its way through and everybody is innocent till proven guilty, that's a freaking fact, bro. It's not like some bumper sticker. If it turns out everything was hunky-dory and a trial, then we're going to talk about it on the show. But we handled it pretty responsibly, and everybody said we were crazy. I don't want to get out ahead of it. That's not responsible either. And promoting any kind of theory out there that gets discredited only takes away from what Solomon just said, that not every single thing that was out there turned out to be true, but a lot of it was. This is why I tell people, don't get distracted, because if there's a there, don't get into another there that's not there, because it takes away from the there that's there. Do you get my point? That was good. Justin's laughing. I heard a laugh. I don't even remember what I just said. It's about a there, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? Irregularities that made it into a legal process document that a judge looked at and said, wow, you guys aren't crazy. Now, what were those irregularities? You mentioned irregularities. Dan John Solomon mentioned irregularities. Here is part two. Hat tip to the team for jump cuts through this. I make the cuts for the show sometimes unusually long. Geek tries to cut them down a little bit. But here is John Solomon talking about 5 specific areas of irregularities. There should be no irregularities, folks. It's an election. It's not hard. If we win or we lose, we should trust that one person, one vote, one count of the vote. That's it. This isn't hard. It's not freaking Elon Musk sending a satellite into space to come back and land in the freaking ocean. I vote. That's me. Make it count. This is not hard. There should be no irregularities. It's not difficult. Check this out.
His affidavit cited 5 major areas of irregularities. The ballot counts didn't match. They would scan images, and then some of them were lost. They would sometimes count, then the counts wouldn't match. So you have a loss of ballots. You've got ballots that were submitted for counting that didn't go through the proper verification process. There were ballots that were scanned twice, which means they were counted twice during recounts. And I think the most extraordinary admission comes from a top lieutenant to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. He was the Georgia election chief. His number one guy admitted to the FBI, according to the affidavit, that some of the things that the FBI corroborated, some of the things that they got Fulton County to admit to, he himself, as the election chief under Brad Raffensperger, had not heard of and does not think the state ever looked at. And perhaps the most important piece of evidence that we put out there and that the FBI relied on in its affidavit, the Carter Jones report. This is a report by Raffensperger's personal emissary to Fulton County. He was sent there to observe the 2020 election, 8 pages of irregularities. He observed, the FBI said that is important evidence.
Folks, this is not a new case. I got to tell you now that I'm on the outside and, again, the Friedman, Walter Williams line, we talk about liberty, talk about it with a smile. Trying to be more of a happy warrior these days because this is the golden year of politics for us. So many good things have happened. That's why I get so angry at this like doom and gloom all the time. But it was really tough on the inside to shut up. It's not about you. And to have to listen, nothing's being done about that. This case did not start yesterday. It's been going on for a long time, but it has to be done correctly. Smooth is fast and fast is smooth. If the vote count is off by 10 and say Biden still won Georgia, why was the vote count off by 10? Why were there irregularities? Why did a judge agree that they're irregular? This is not hard. The American people have a right, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, freaking communist, it doesn't matter. You have a right to assemble, petition, and to speak and say, hey, I think there's something up there. We pay for an FBI. I'd like you to take a look. If a judge agrees there's irregularities, then Houston, or in this case, Georgia, we got a freaking problem. Faith in the system. Stop for a second. Well, not you guys. Guys, listen, I adore the Constitution. Adore our Constitution. It is we have some of the amendments right on the wall, but the civil rights amendments right on the wall behind me. It was a gift from a viewer. One of our favorites. I worship this Constitution. Not in the way I worship Christ, but there's a fidelity and a love for these amazing founding documents by our brilliant founding fathers to turn a group of imperfect men into this almost perfect union. This stuff matters. But let's be absolutely clear as Scotch tape on this. The Constitution is just a piece of paper, not the ideas. The ideas were groundbreaking. Individual human liberty, rights, big R, God-given rights. These were completely foreign ideas at the time. But it's a piece of paper. If we don't believe in it, and we don't believe in the institutions that enforce the negative liberties and the positive, what you can and can't, and what you can do on the positive liberty side and what the government can't do to you. In other words, you have the right to own and bear a firearm. The government does not have the right to interdict and establish a government religion. There are negative and positive liberties. It only matters if we all believe it matters. If you all believe it's just a piece of paper and I'm going to flush it down the toilet bowl, it doesn't mean anything. It's like a four-way stop sign nobody stops for. The stop sign doesn't do anything. It just says stop. If everybody says I'm not going to stop, then it doesn't do shit. There's the civil rights amendments right there. Thank you to the listener who sent that. Do you understand what I'm getting at? If we don't have faith in the institutions, and the vote count has irregularities, if it's off by 5, why is it off by 5? It's the faith in the institution. And I know what the liberal media goons are going to say too. I know it. I can already see the articles being written. Well, there would be faith in the institution if you guys wouldn't stop questioning it. We have the right to question it, a-holes. And it turns out, at least if you believe in the judicial system, that there's probable cause to believe that we're not crazy. Solomon was very fair. Is it going to change the vote count? He said, I don't know. But there are 5 things that are really strange. We have the right to question it. Just like you did with Bush versus Gore, where, as I said the other day, you still think Al Gore beat George W. Bush. You don't have any evidence that's actually true. You questioned it. You questioned Trump's election in 2016. You still believe in the Russia hoax. I saw it, was it that piece by Fusion Kendallanian? Was it a week ago? Still pumping the Russia hoax? Or was it Philip Bump? The other, who cares? They all believe in it. They still believe in this shit. You want to talk about shredding institutions? You jerkwads did that. You did it. You shredded credibility in the FBI. You know how hard that's going to be to rebuild? Believe me, folks, I'm under no illusion whatsoever. None. Where's Josh? Josh, we don't chat too much. I love Josh, but he's new. Josh, come out here a second. Did we not have this conversation this morning? How I said exactly this to you. Josh was asking me a couple of questions about what the life was like in the Bureau. Listen to me. I am under zero illusions that there was ever going to be some like palm frond ceremony. Did I not say this to you, Josh, this morning? This exact, thank you. Exactly those words. I'm not anybody's hero. I didn't save the place. We didn't do any, I went there and I did my job. Cleaned the place out, crushed the violent crime rate, focused on public corruption cases, looked at this election stuff. I did my job. I'm not trying to be anybody's hero because I'm not. There are no heroes in government. I bring it up too because someone in the chat, I was in the chat this morning checking it out before the show. And one of the guys, belt man, like a belt around your pants, belt man said, Dan, can you give us, a reason to trust Washington, D.C. again? It's some version of that. The gist of it is correct. Belt man. You're probably still there in the chat. Thank you for the comment. The answer is no. Don't trust anybody. This is a government of fallible people who make mistakes. Accountability matters. What do you think? I was coming out of here going, FBI's all fixed, guys. We're good. No, it's not. Look at me. Everybody get the palm fronds. Way me down. No. There are no heroes in this business, folks. None. There's only the truth and seeking it. I'm not going to give you a reason to ever trust DC. Don't trust anybody. Trust no one. It's not the X-Files. Trust no one. Demand accountability. On me too. All I ask of the other people not the hack media, but the doomer class is at least come with the facts and don't lie to people. Because what you're doing is you're going to annihilate our chances in this election of winning based on not accountability, but just bullshit. But no, on the other side, if you're a person out there constantly demanding accountability, good, excellent. I mean that. Thank you. Trust nobody. If you're looking for me to come in here and go, oh, look, we all fixed everything, guys. It's done. You got the wrong guy. And I ain't it. There's a lot of problems, not just in the FBI, but throughout the government. Speaking of the FBI, we'll be covering, by the way, we're going to get John Solomon on the show. We're going to try to work on next week. I hope you guys have been enjoying the guest segments, by the way. We've had a pretty good lineup so far. President Trump knocked it out of the park. Candidate for governor in Florida, Congressman Byron Donalds. Yesterday was Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. We got Tommy Tuberville, Brandon Gill. We've got a whole bunch of people coming up, a great guest lineup. I'm hearing a rumor Director Patel wants to come on. There's a couple of things we could probably talk about. But speaking of the FBI, again, this is a personal choice. I know I'm probably sacrificing a good 10% of viewers or others who want wall-to-wall coverage of the tragedy, the Guthrie case, and this is an 84-year-old woman. You're going to have to watch cable news. I've got 2 hours with you, an hour and a half, 2 hours every day. I just don't want to talk about it the entire time because I think I'm wasting your time. I get it's going to cost me some of the audience. That's okay. Viewership was down a little bit yesterday, and it probably had to do with some of the breaking news in the case. But I do want to cover just a couple quick things because I did a Fox hit by phone yesterday from my office with Martha McCallum. I covered a few things. So just briefly on this, here's what happened yesterday. Here's the big hang up with this case so far. And I don't know how to be, I'm just going to say, the FBI should have been called in sooner. I don't want a Monday morning quarterback anything, folks. But again, I have an obligation to tell you the truth. In a case that's this complicated, and there are a multitude of reasons. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. It's not my goal. I was treated as a missing persons case. They may not have known. Once they saw the blood, if they would have been called in sooner, we probably would have had some misinformation sooner. However, once they got there, they had to get moving right away. So yesterday, I'm sitting in the office, and I saw it when you saw it. I see the tweet by Director Patel, and it said, here are these new images we pulled. This is the one I'm talking about here. New images in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Here's likely what happened here, folks. These Nest and Ring cameras you have at your house, if you have a subscription, you're good. If you see some of the images there, you've seen them all over TV. If you don't have a subscription, I want you to always remember, because we've been talking about ubiquitous technical surveillance, how you're always under surveillance now. You are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You carry a smartphone, you're under surveillance. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You know how many cameras you walk by every day? Folks, this is a huge problem in the FBI and the intel community. Ubiquitous technical surveillance. You are always under surveillance. Yes, I'm pointing at you too. So whereas this is a segment about the Guthrie case, it's more about other things too. You don't have privacy anymore. I wish you did. This is why I'm telling you, be careful about constant calls for like, well, the FBI should be in every chat room monitoring people. I'm not so sure that's true. Matter of fact, I don't support that at all. Would have made my job a lot easier. I don't want my job to be that easy because we have this thing called liberty. You should have a predicate. However, if you have one of these cameras, I have one of them, but I understand there's a trade-off. It's a trade-off I personally choose because we have security issues that I don't want to talk about here, but a lot of them. I wish we didn't. I need you to understand. Look at me. From your friend here. You are making a serious trade-off when you put any of these cameras or surveillance cameras around your house. I want you to remember this, okay? You ready? Write it down, tattoo it on your brain. Once information is created, digital information is created, it's almost impossible to completely destroy. Folks, we had some cases when I was there in the bureau, man. One's like a computer was sitting in the sun for 7 days after being wiped out with magnets and all that other crap, and they still managed to pull some stuff off it. So in this case, it appears that they had to serve legal process on Google that works with Nest and go out and pull this information out of the cache. That's C-A-C-H-E, not cache, K-A-S-H. They had to pull it out of the cache. That's how this surfaced. So good job by the team. They have a lot of digital video enhancement operations that we do over there. And I suspect they know a little bit more right now. I'm not telling you they have a suspect, but I'm telling you they probably have more about this person than they're letting out. As I said yesterday on Martha McCallum's show, there's always a balancing act. We were involved in multiple cases where you can see it in that if you ever go watch the documentary on the Boston bombing, there was a big argument over when they should release them. And this obviously way predates my time. Again, Monday morning quarterbacking is easy. However, there was a big argument between the Boston police officials and the FBI about releasing the photo. Do you release the photo and give the opportunity for the bad guys to flee? They know it's them. They were there. The guy in the ski mask knows it's him because it's him. Now he thinks, oh my gosh, they may have something. Or do you put it out there and have the public work for you? We typically erred on the latter, and I think that's why you're seeing that yesterday. But I want you to remember something, and I'm going to kind of leave this here and move on to some other stuff because we got a ton of news to get to today. There's a lot. Sometimes you say loaded news day. This is it. One of the tricks I used to do interviewing people as a young agent, obviously as the deputy, you're not interviewing people. You're not a ground agent anymore. But in my 12 years as a federal agent prior to this one of the things we would do a lot is when we used to, remember VHS tapes when all the security cameras used to be hooked up to like multiplex devices and VHS tapes? Say, for example, you caught a guy passing counterfeit in a 7-Eleven, but you had no video or no nothing. You just knew you had a partial print and you thought it may be him. What I would do is I would just walk in with a videotape, right? Like 7-Eleven, it's a blank videotape and nothing on it. And I would put 7-Eleven, I would put it on the table and I'd start interviewing the guy, but I would never mention the tape at all. Why? Because the guy, if he's the guy, he knows he did it because he did it. So if he thinks, oh my gosh, is there a camera in it? It was just a way to get in their head. And I'm telling you, it would work. I don't know, 6, 7 out of 10 times. You'd see them staring at the tape incessantly because they know they did it. They were there and they think it's evidence. And if they ask about it, I'd be like, well, we'll get to that later. So putting the videotape out, I always erred, again, during my past year on the ladder. A couple other things too. There's a specialization of labor in law enforcement, just like there is in economics. And this is one of the reasons to call them in really early on these things. They have teams in there in the bureau that this is all they do. Digital video enhancement, crime scenes, the ERT folks, HRT, the hostage rescue. Well, that's, we have SWAT and others that do that too. But that's all they do. This is their job. They don't do anything else. They get really good at it. It's like, on a Ford assembly line, you get the guy responsible for whatever, implanting the AI in the dashboard. That's all he does. He doesn't put the tires on. He doesn't know anything about it. But he knows a whole lot about the dashboard AI feature. He's an expert in that. So they probably could have been called in a little bit earlier. But cases are complicated, folks. Hey, listen, people did it to us. Fair enough. I saw a Mediaite article this morning. Questions were asked about how they handled, the Kirk investigation. You're free to ask questions. That's a trial ongoing, and we'll have something to say about that once it's over. I get your hint there. All right, I got a lot more to talk about, especially just another explosion of stupidity on Capitol Hill yesterday. Some staggering economic numbers that came out. Some even more staggering year-end crime numbers and the media spin on it. And Caroline Leavitt addressing the fake news yesterday from the podium in the Brady press room. A huge day. Again, a lot to talk about. Today's show also brought to you by Helix Sleep. Folks, when I moved up to D.C., I needed a mattress. First people I called, Helix. I've been sleeping on a Helix mattress forever. They've been with us from the beginning. A good night's sleep. I was just reading this article about side sleeping and clearing this the fluids and all the waste out of your brain. You got to get a good night's sleep. You got to go into deep sleep. You need a good mattress. You got to be comfortable. Good night's sleep keeps me going, not only for mental clarity, but also for my physical health. I rely on Helix, Helix, Helix mattresses. Paul and I have had them for years. Really happy we made the change. Helix matches you with the perfect mattress based on your personal preferences and sleep needs, which makes buying a mattress super easy. You can have confidence with your match with seamless returns and exchanges. The Happy with Helix, Helix guarantee offers you a risk-free, customer-first experience designed to ensure you're completely satisfied with your new mattress. Even my guys here in the studio are hooked on Helix after getting their match. I think that's the only reason they work here, to get free Helix mattress. Josh is like, I haven't got my Helix mattress yet. We'll work. Teresa, get a Helix for Josh, but he's got to go fill out his preferences. Go to helixsleep.com/Dan for 27% off site-wide. That's Helix, Helix, helixsleep.com/Dan. Get 20% off site-wide. And make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/Dan. Get on that for Josh. He looked a little tired this morning. Someone help him out. Teresa, help a brother out. All right, next. Sorry, I confused Guy. American financing. Here we go. Thank you, Guy. You do. I know you do. That's why you got caught up. Look, it's 2026 and way too many of us are still getting crushed by high interest debt. We're talking 20, 24, even 28% interest every single month. So good. It's a debt trap. It's designed to keep you financially underwater. If you're a homeowner, it's time to call my friends at American Financing. You've been waiting for a sign to get your house in order. This is it. I trust these guys because they do things differently. They have salary-based mortgage consultants so you get the right loan for your needs. They're professionals helping you tap into your home's equity to pay off that high-interest debt. Get this, they're saving their customers an average of $800 a month. Following the drop in interest rates, financing is now available in the low fives. Think about what that does for your family's budget. It's a game changer. There are no upfront fees to see what you can save every month. If you start today, you might even delay 2 mortgage payments. So go to American Financing today. You can call them at 888-994-7660. Call American Financing at 888-994-7660, or you can visit them online. This is a .net address. It's americanfinancing.net/Bongino, americanfinancing.net/Bongino. Thank you, American Financing. We appreciate it. Save yourself some money. Okay. Folks, the Democrats are right back to their defund the police nonsense. I say that again in light of the crime numbers that came out. This has been the golden year for the MAGA movement. It has. There is simply no question if you are a facts-based transactional guy like me who believes in spreadsheets. Is this a +1 or a -1? Don't get all emotional about things. I'm an emotional guy, but don't get emotional about things. If the crime rate was up, we would have to say we failed. Not only is it down, it's down to one of the lowest rates in modern American history. You would think the Democrats would be like, hey, this is great. We run cities like Chicago, New York, and LA and other places, and the crime rate is going down. This is fantastic. No. You would think the Democrats would celebrate the fact that illegal migrants are not walking into the country in violation of our law, some of whom are committing crimes on our soil after committing the crime of entering the country illegally. Nope. This hearing up on Capitol Hill yesterday with Todd Lyons and other border officials up there just degenerated into total Democrat chaos yesterday. Here's the first clip. This is that absolute J6 committee clown, Benny Thompson, a total joker. He puts up a photo of this tragic shooting incident, which is still being investigated. We don't get out ahead of anything. He puts up a photo, and you'll hear him talking about the photo if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, The photo's AI. It's not even a real photo. Check this out.
In the video of the incident, a DHS agent can be seen cheering Mr. Preedy's death. Americans watch the video in horror. Yet once again, Secretary Nome gaslit the public, made up a demonstrably false story.
But he can't. One, can you just spit it out? What do you have, a pack of Wrigley's gum in your mouth? Spit it out, Benny. BT, spit it out. It's like mumbles from the Dick Tracy thing. Spit it out. That's not even a real picture, dude. And how about this? How about you just let the investigation happen before you jump to conclusions? Is this hard? It's like the elections thing we brought up in the beginning of the show at Fulton County. It's not hard. I vote, count vote. It's not hard. I vote, count vote. Don't count people who don't vote, and don't count my vote when it's not my vote. This isn't hard. Where's the guy's head in the picture? The guy's leg is a camera. He's got no head. And these idiots put this up in here. You know, again, I don't like to make this all about the last year, guys, but one of the things I noticed in the last year dealing with lawmakers, not all of them, but a lot of them are complete, absolute tools. Some of them are some of the dumbest human beings you've ever. How they get elected to office, I have no idea. And they'll criticize you. You're like, what did you get, a 46 on your SAT? Here's another moron, Swalwell, Fang's boyfriend. I mean, are you going to see a bigger nightmare for national security than a congressman with questionable ties to Fang? That this guy still opens his yapper and talks all this shit is really something to behold. Here's Swalwell asking Todd Lyons if he's going to resign. And by the way, parrots another bullshit left-wing conspiracy theory that we stole this child from the father, when in fact, the father fled the scene and our guys took care of the 5-year-old child. Check this out.
Mr. Lyons, will you resign from ICE?
No, sir, I won't.
Why not?
Because, sir, that child that you're showing right there, the men and women of ICE took care of him when his father abandoned him and ran from law enforcement.
Time has expired.
You never should have gone.
Gentleman's time has expired. I recognize the gentleman from Mississippi.
Okay.
A guest for.
Are they ever going to tell you the truth? The answer is no, of course not. That's not what they do. They are freaking allergic to the truth, man. I'm allergic to dog hair and dander. The Democrats are allergic to truth dander. They can never tell you the truth. That's not what happened. The father was suspected of a crime, an immigration crime, and the father fled, and the 5-year-old was left behind. Swalwell, what would you want to do? Leave him with Fang? What's your plan? They took care of him. They took him to like McDonald's or something for food. What do you want to do? Leave him on the street to roam around? Are these guys always full of shit? The answer is yes. Fake AI pictures, conspiracy theories. And I told you I had DHS Secretary Kristi Noem on yesterday talking about another conspiracy theory. This CBS story that only 14% of people deported or in the deportation process are criminals. That was the narrative. Remember, the liberal media always has to tell you a story, not the story. A story is not the story with the liberal media ever. We're here to fracture their bullshit narratives and do the reverse, to tell you the story, not a story. Here they are parroting that bullshit that Kristi Noem debunked and we put on the show yesterday. It's not 14%. When you factor in things like drunk driving, possession of child pornography, and other what I believe are violent crimes, and then people on pending criminal charges, the number's actually closer to 70%. That's 7 out of 10 for the Democrats who can't do math, not 14 out of 100. The guys put this together. Here they are parroting that. This, again, you see how it gets picked up by the media, and then the Democrats go out there and run with this bullshit. Are you ever going to tell the truth? Hell no. That's not their thing. Check this out.
Less than 14% of those arrested by ICE first year 2025 had charges or convictions of violence.
Less than 14% of the nearly 400,000 immigrants arrested by ICE in 2025 had charges or convictions for violent criminal offenses.
Less than 14% of the nearly 400,000 immigrants arrested by ICE since President Trump returned to office a year ago have been charged with or convicted of violent criminal offenses.
Listen, I've been dealing with this for 15 years now, between the media space, being back and forth, TV, radio, podcasts. It is difficult but not impossible in this asymmetric information warfare environment to fight every single media lie at once. The fake news loves fake news. They live off it. And lies spread quickly before they can be corrected. I promise you here, though, we are going to stick to the truth and the numbers and the data. That is bullshit. That is not an accurate number. If you were trying to get a sense of how many people were deported that were involved in criminal behavior, the number is not even close to 14%. It is way higher. Again, it's closer to 70%. I said before, talking about Benny Thompson, these other goofballs, you would think these far-left liberal radical lunatics would be happy that President Trump's got the economy going. GDP numbers are up. Crime is down. Inflation seems relatively tame. Gas prices are down. The border invasion's been stopped. They're not happy. They hate it. I said to you day one when I came back last week, some of these people would rather see you a victim of a crime than give President Trump and his administration a win on anything. And when you look at the cesspools they're running, they pretend none of this happened. You guys heard of, tell me in the chat, you guys know this independent journalist, Nick Shirley? He blew open a lot of the Minnesota fraud stuff. Have you heard of him? If you haven't, he's been doing some pretty amazing work. Rather young guy, but good for him. This is where, this is kind of the back and forth where I told you, asymmetric information warfare, right? Liberals can promote bullshit on Twitter, it travels around the world. That's the downside. Then you got to sit there all day and respond. The upside is we have our own posse of independent journalists, Nick Shirley and others, Savannah Hernandez. You got guys always down at the border. You've seen them all. They do their own work, and they do these exposés. Nick Shirley was out in California and just dropped a new video yesterday. So hat tip to him. Go give him a follow on X. You think Minnesota was bad? And thankfully, I said yesterday, I think we're up to 158 arrests, the Fed level, and growing for that, and still expanding. They've got an expanded AUSA Corps out there and everything, and a whole task force dedicated to it. This video in California, I'd argue, is even worse. It shows the lunacy of these lying, fake news, and blue city crazies where they're out. There's a guy on the street, looks like he's dying. They're out there with the Narcan while simultaneously distributing drug delivery, like needles and stuff. So here's how to kill yourself while we give you the unkill yourself, don't get dead Narcan. If you're like, no, I'm just showing you what he's covered out there. You judge for yourself. Check this out.
This guy is clearly, he's passed out right now. How do we know that he is still alive and that he doesn't need Narcan right now?
He's breathing. You see his chest rising and it's going up and down and his color's good. Now, if he's blue, he's not responsive, his color's gone, he'd be like a blue, gray, purple color, then you know he's overdosing.
Okay.
So the most important thing is to hit him with Narcan. Doesn't matter how much Narcan you give him. If you got 3 in here, give him all 3 and rescue breaths.
Okay, so what's in here? What's inside this bag?
Okay, so
this Narcan you inject into their nose and it brings them back to life.
Yes, sir, yeah.
While I was talking to the guy about Narcan, my friend Tommy was also talking to another guy in the cart about some other things, and I think you guys are all going to find this very strange what he'd received from the people on the cart.
We were talking to the people over there in the van, and they're giving out free stuff. They're giving out the Narcan to save people, and then they're also giving out needles. And what's the idea of giving out needles and the rubber bands?
This is so they could do the drugs without worrying about disease, so everyone gets a clean needle.
That's how many needles inside there? There's
27, 10 of them.
There's 10 needles inside of this bag right here.
You get everything, the whole kit. You get the rubber band, you get the alcohol, you get the cotton swabs, but then this is what you actually put it in here and heat this up, and then they give you filtered water.
So they're literally giving the people here on the street what they need to keep doing drugs.
By the way, everybody during the break is taking up the Dan Bongino 100 air squats a day challenge. I look in there, everybody's like bouncing up and down. Justin, Gee, 100 air squats a day, keep you in good shape. It's like walking your 10,000 steps. However, getting back to the important stuff, you know me, sometimes a little ADHD. Well, thank you, number one, Nick Shirley. I don't think we've ever met. We may have, but really incredible work. They're giving out drugs for people to kill themselves. Did you hear the middle of that, by the way? I'm going to play it again. You can rewind it if you're watching VOD, but apparently they're so familiar with people ODing in a lot of these blue cities that they've got this whole process. A guy, Nick Shirley's like, this is staggering. He's like, did you hear it? Is he dead? The guy's like, no, I don't think he's dead. You can see like his chest moving and he's not fully purple yet. You're like, is this for real? This is how often you're seeing this? Guys, I live in an area of Florida with an amazing sheriff. He does an incredible job, him and his team. I'm not going to tell you crime is non-existent, but it's pretty serious. Crime is pretty rare. I did not grow up like that in New York. Crime was not pretty rare where we lived, where it was only a matter of time until they broke into your car or robbed you. However, I've lived here now 10 years. Justin, you lived here longer than me. Have you ever driven by a guy on a sidewalk, laying on a sidewalk, and been like, is he purple yet? I mean, seriously, have you ever seen it?
No.
I haven't either. I'm not telling you it hasn't happened. I'm just telling you, if this is here's like, in some limited circles, Libs, we call this a clue. If you were so good at detecting partially dead people from drug overdoses because you're doing it every day, you fucked up. Pardon my language. Well, he's not purple yet, so I think he's still got a shot. How much Narcan we hit him with? The guy's like, just keep hitting him with it. And then the other guy follows up after he wakes up from the Narcan. Hey, you need more drugs? Sterile water, needles? What do you need? And we're taking advice from these dipshits? Now you see why I get so pissed off at these goons and their media cronies? The violent crime rate set an all-time low. I don't know what happened. I'll tell you what happened. Donald Trump happened. And then you see a story like this. You're like, it's just an isolated incident. Isolated to 1 minute of the day. If you go to another minute, we'll find another one that was isolated. And then another one. Then you got your guy, I promise I wouldn't make it to Mamdani's show, but you get this clown Mamdani, the guy's in office a month. He just figured out in New York City, it freaking snows. White stuff comes out. You ever see it? Falls from the sky, builds up a lot. New York City's been cleaning up snow since I'm a kid. I was born in 1974. I was a New York City kid. It's not the first time it snowed. Mamdani's the first guy to have actually fucked up a snowstorm. How do you do that? You know, you have that old joke like, hey, man, this guy screw up like making ice. This guy screwed up making snow. How do you screw up with a sanitation department that's done this 10,000 times a snowstorm? Here, this is tragic, too. This isn't funny at all. Here's a New York City outdoor death toll climbs to 18. As a shelter worker recalls the latest deep freeze fatality. These are your blue cities, folks. Guy on the sidewalk, is he purple enough yet to declare him dead? Nah, hit him with some Narcan. Hey, is that guy frozen? Yeah, he's, what's up? That's 18. I thought these were the big compassionate cities. I thought you guys were full of compassion and love, tolerance, right? What's your bumper sticker? Coexist, tolerance. Coexist with who? Dead people? You guys are supposed to be the compassionate ones, correct? Everybody's dying in your cities. If it wasn't for President Trump, more people would be dead by gunshots and elsewhere. Folks, they can't even get sports right. You notice I didn't do a ton of, and I don't really care. Like, we don't do much sports on the show. I still love the Auburn Tigers, War Damn Eagle, all you out there in the chat. Give me a WDE. By the way, I post that on Twitter once in a while, WDE, and people always think it's some cryptic message. It's like a code or hieroglyphs or something. It means War Damn Eagle. It's just a thing we say to each other. So if you know, you know. But it's not a cryptic message or anything, just for those of you out there. I'm not trying to be cute. I just like when they win, the basketball football team, unfortunately, has been rare. I put the War Damn Eagle up. Basketball team, I don't know, on the fence this year, doing all right. But they can't even get sports right. Remember Boomer Esiason, quarterback for the Jets, Bengals? It was an amazing quarterback. Used to watch him back in the day. Here he is on a sports show talking about how much money, and listen, this isn't a don't cry for me, Argentina. I'm not, whatever. I'm not, NFL guys lost a couple, but that's not the point. I don't get into this like billionaire, millionaire envy thing. The point is, this guy in the Super Bowl goes there to play in San Francisco, this guy Darnold, Sam Darnold, the quarterback for Seattle, another high-tax area, and they wind up getting a bonus for winning, and they lose money. How do you lose money on a bonus? Only in blue cities where people die on the street, and the only other metric for death is how purple they are. I'm not kidding. Listen to this. This is crazy.
For winning the Super Bowl, the winning team, each player gets $178,000. In other words, the Super Bowl isn't a part of their salary. And because the game was played in California, and California has a jock tax, and they look at duty days. So each team spends 7 days in the state of California. So those are 7 duty days, and they pierce your regular salary at 3.5%. So he has to pay, when you take in account he got the $178,000 plus his overall salary, he has to pay the state of California for spending 7 days there $249,000.
That's just so stupid.
I mean, yeah, but it ends up costing him $71,000 to go play in California.
How do you screw that up? How the hell do you screw that up? You can't even go play a freaking football game in California without losing money? And again, we're taking advice from these idiots? Is he purple enough yet? I don't know. His chest is moving. Hey, how many dead people is that from the snowstorm? 18. Hey, I thought we were coexisting. Not existing anymore because they're fucking dead. We're taking advice from these dipshits. As you can tell, I'm in a bit of a mood today. Do you see this one? So California, here's another one. But these Blue City Wonderkins. Brilliant. Move to Blue Cities. It's utopia, heaven on earth, when you're not freezing on the sidewalk and you're not purple enough to be dead yet. After they deliver you the drug kits to get yourself dead. California wants to pass a billionaires tax. And all the liberal dipshits in the chat, we see you, we know who you are. They're like, yeah, F those billionaires, take their money. Okay, they're going to take their money and they're going to leave. No, they're not. Okay, Wall Street Journal. Mark Zuckerberg is the latest California billionaire to buy a Florida home. Folks, I'm not into the whole billionaire envy thing. I'm going to tell you, I'm not a hypocrite, okay? You want to be rich and work your ass off? You want to be rich because you didn't work your ass off. You don't owe me anything. Yes, we have a tax system to pay for the military, locally, for other items. I get it. However, I want the lowest tax rates possible because nobody owes you shit in this life. Nobody owes you shit. Shit. Nobody owes you anything. You owe yourself. God gave you 4 limbs and a functioning brain. Go work for a living. And I'm really sorry that you see some Republicans playing into a lot of this, basic income bullshit and all this other stuff. Nobody owes you anything. You owe the world. You owe them your sweat equity and your hard work. I don't care about Mark Zuckerberg's money. All I care about is building a business. My own business and my employees. These people live off envy. And they're all frauds. This is Guy, this video here. This is Guy's favorite video of the show. By favorite, I don't mean good. I mean favorite in like, he never says anything. He's like, you got to fit this one in. That's true. Well, it's a good point. Guy brings up, before you watch the video, if you listen on Apple and Spotify, you got to tune in and see this. This guy, Charles Barron, this representative, is proud of the fact that white people are leaving his district. But Guy points out, look at his uniform. He's got like the Commie Mao uniform on. Now, I just want to point out in the beginning here, this is how liberals are full of shit because you can never win with them. If you move into a neighborhood that's run down, which usually means it's run by liberals almost all the time, then you're guilty of what, guys? It's definitely gentrification. Justin, tell me I'm not right on this. Okay? Don't move into a struggling neighborhood if you're white, because then you're guilty of gentrification. But if you're in a struggling neighborhood that has Black and Hispanic residents and you move out, then you're definitely a racist for moving away. You can't win with these people. Remember Rocky IV? You can't win. There's nothing you can. This is how you know you're dealing with bullshitters. At least this clown, and I mean clown, this jerkwad, at least he's honest. He's like, hey, man, I'm proud of the fact that the white people are leaving my district. Okay, well, at least you're honest about it. Check this out.
I have the distinct honor to be able to come before you and say I actually lost white population in my community. I lost them. They left. They left. I didn't ask them why. They left. So if you see 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 whites in my neighborhood, they're passing through. But that's on a serious note. We got 13,000 Black elected officials in this country. We've had mayors, we've had governors, we have city council members. We need to get radical.
He's not kidding. He's flipping you off. At least he's honest. He's like, do you notice he raided Kim Jong-un's wardrobe closet too? I'm not even kidding. It's the exact same gray Mao outfit they both wear. We have white people leaving our dish. You can't win with these people. Look at that. That is definitely the Mao outfit. That is what. That is so. Kim Jong-un. Look at him. Kim Jong-un. That's like Ozempic Kim Jong-un, too. Did you notice Kim Jong-un lost a little weight? He raided his closet. Maybe he went on a trip to North Korea for some economic growth ideas. Charles Barron. Get out of his district if you're white. And by the way, left to say that's totally not racist. Can you imagine just for a moment, can you imagine a Republican representative who's white going, hey, man, I'm really glad there's no Black or Hispanic resident. Oh, my God. One, you'd be a moron and obviously a racist. But how does that not apply to this guy? The answer is because he's a liberal goofball and there are no standards. The only standards the left-wing media has and liberals is they have no standards at all. Remember, you move in, you gentrified it. You move out, you're a racist. Wait, I have no op? No, you don't. Why? Because there is no guiding principle with these life losers at all. Thank God we got President Trump in office. Did you see these numbers this morning? I'm going to take my last break. Folks, if you missed these numbers, they were extraordinary. The economic numbers are, I'm going to tell you why, what I think is going on. Again, I told you when I'm speculating, I'm speculating. I'm not a PhD economist. I'm not going to cite education credentials. You know my line on that. If you're citing your education, you're probably a moron. But I am fascinated and do love economics. There's something going on in the economy that I believe is going to be the new industrial revolution. I got to tell you, we are on the cusp, potentially. If the stars line up just right, for an explosion in this economy like we haven't seen since maybe the 50s. Last break and we'll get right back to it. Brickhouse Nutrition. Folks, about a year ago, 2 years ago, I was getting a little heavier around the waist, was eating a lot. I would like to be strong, but now I'm 51 and now I got to be functional. And carrying a lot of that extra weight was really not helpful. I need a knee replacement. It's a mess, my left knee. So I had to lose about 25 to 30 pounds. I didn't know how hard it was going to be, but thankfully I called up Miles and he's like, hey, Dano, we got this product called Lean, like Lean, Lean. I said, let me give it a shot. Lost about 30 pounds. Again, you can go look at the pictures yourself. The only way to lose weight is not to inject yourself once a week. Nope, not anymore. Here's the reality. Weight loss injections work because they do two things. They help control your blood sugar and they shut down appetite, so you eat less. There's really no mystery to it. There's no special mechanism. That's the way they work. That's what Lean was created to do, replicate the benefits of weight loss injections without the needles. Lean, Lean, was formulated by doctors to support healthy blood sugar and help reduce the spikes and crashes that drive nonstop cravings, snacking, all the stuff that gets you gooey. You don't want to be gooey. Lean goes a step further. Lean helps your body turn fat into energy so you burn it instead of storing it. No prescriptions, no needles. Here's how you get it. BrickhouseNutrition.com/Dan. The product's fantastic. Me and Paula use it. Use promo code Dan to get 20% off. The website, again, BrickhouseNutrition.com/Dan. Use promo code Dan. BrickhouseNutrition.com/Dan. Promo code Dan. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. It's not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. Thank you, Brickhouse Nutrition. Try Lean, try Field of Green, try all their products. I've been using them forever. Foundation, the creatine product's great too. Folks, the jobs report, you know what? Go to the Cheryl Casoni segment first. I know it's going to be. This is Cheryl Casoni on Fox this morning. We get extraordinary job numbers. Nearly double what the expected job growth was supposed to be. What are you going to hear from the liberal media? Crickets. The liberal media loves the doomer shit too. They're going to be like, 130,000 jobs. It should have been 140. Well, they were expecting 70. Doesn't matter. Biden would have done better. Spaghetti brains. He didn't do shit. 130,000 jobs was double expectations. But here's the kicker. Here's the angle you're not going to hear about. That was despite the fact that President Trump's government efficiency efforts have collapsed the federal workforce, the government numbers, to the lowest number of government workers since 1966. You see what I'm getting at? This is not juiced by a jump in federal employment. Federal employment's gone down, and the job numbers are still going up in the private sector. Check this out.
130,000 jobs created for the month of January. Wow. The estimate was 70,000. Wow, I was right, Maria. 4.3% is the unemployment rate. The street was looking for 4.4%. Right. This is not the kind of report we expected to see, guys. Let me give you the government jobs picture. That is negative 42,000 on the government side part of the equation. We saw that in the reports previously. We also saw labor force participation rate, 62.5%. Average hourly earnings, 0.41%. That is actually higher than the expectations. The average hourly earnings month to month, a little bit higher than expected. Private payrolls, 172,000. I had to do a double take. 172,000 private jobs. Guys, that's 100,000 above the estimate. We were looking for 70,000.
Do you see what she's saying there? The private sector numbers were even bigger. But on net, being that President Trump is reducing the load of government employees and the government burden on your wallet, the number was still 130,000, nearly double what they expected. That's why the stock market jumped again this morning. It is near 50,000. Why are these freaking liberals still complaining? Seriously, you guys want to be poor, purple in the street, freezing to death on a sidewalk, crime everywhere, gun runners and drug smugglers on your corner, fentanyl all over the place, an open border. Is that your campaign slogan? Do you have anything else? AI-generated bullshit, conspiracy theories, fairy tales up on Capitol Hill. This is what these guys are for. Folks, what's going on here? It's not just AI. It's not. It is the massive effort to deregulate and get red tape out of government, which is saving people legal fees, administrative fees, time. When you combine that with the now explosive, near geometric growth occurring in productivity from the combination of AI and advanced computing, folks, I'm telling you, we're in for something big if we can just get the freaking government out of the way, which President Trump's working on right now. Here's a quick one. Here's Stephen Moore yesterday. The inflation crisis. Listen, it's still a problem, okay? Inflation's always going to be a problem. It doesn't just go away. It's not magic. We have a ton of debt. However, we can outgrow it. Here's Stephen Moore, just quick. Real median income going up. Real median income. Meaning what your money actually buys, not just nominal. This is important. Real median income is what makes you feel richer, not nominal numbers. Check this out.
Look at what's happening with real median income over the last 12 months. That number is up $2,400. So that's very good news. So what that's saying is that people's incomes are rising faster than inflation rate, finally. So we turned the corner there. That's good news.
That's amazing news. Again, you're not going to hear it from the lib media and doomer class. Everything sucks all the time. Well, it doesn't suck. By the way, some breaking news here about the Guthrie case. I'll get back to this in a second. TMZ is saying says they received a new note demanding 1 Bitcoin to name the alleged abductor of Nancy Guthrie. We'll see. I'm not convinced that these two incidents yet are related. Obviously, something happened at the house. However, these people who are demanding Bitcoin and other things could be. I'm wrong. I'm not convinced they're both related. And we've already seen an arrest over this. So you saw that just happen now. Here's Trump. He gave an interview there, the President Trump, talking about, again, this doomerism in the media, how 50,000 on the stock market, real median income going up, the jobs numbers were incredible, and how they keep moving. Here's what the media does. They keep moving the goalpost. Oh, do this and you'll be fantastic on the economy and maybe one day we'll give you a hat tip. And then you do that and they go, oh, we were just kidding. Charlie Brown football style. Check this out.
I remember when I first won, they said, if he gets the Dow up to 50,000 by the end of his 4th year, he will have done miracles. And we're at the end of the 1st year. So when you think about it, that's great. And the S&P, the same thing. And everything else. I mean, everything's going great. We inherited a total mess from Biden, and not only the borders, but the economy, the inflation. The inflation was the worst ever in history. They say 48 years, but basically ever in history. And prices were high, and you don't hear them use the word affordability anymore. They can't use it because we brought the prices down. Oil now, I was in Iowa last week, and they were at $1.85 a gallon. And if you go all over the country, in many cases now it's broken $2 a gallon. And that's like a major tax cut. Yeah. We've given them that too in the great big beautiful bill. So we've had a very good run and we want to keep it going.
Nothing this administration does will ever be credited to Donald Trump. Nothing. Zero. The joke is if Donald Trump cures cancer, they'd be angry. They'd be like, well, insurance companies are going to lose money, not treating. All of a sudden, insurance companies will be their friend. They don't have any principles. The only principle is power and abusing it and bullshitting you. We just gave you the numbers, the facts. Real median wages, the crime numbers. Those are facts. I'll go a little bit out of order. Caroline Levitt. Here's Caroline Levitt, who's done a great job as a press secretary, up there in the press room yesterday, addressing this issue with the media. That can you guys just, we don't need you to get the palm fronds out and tell us how great we are, but can you at least give people the facts so they can make an informed opinion? Facts are facts. The homicide rate, the unemployment numbers are numbers. They're not open for dispute. You're either dead or you're freaking not dead. It's not hard to figure out. Just tell people the facts and let them, they can't even do that. Let them form their own opinions. Here's Caroline Levitt talking about what a banger of a year it's been and how these idiots in the press room keep painting everything as like black clouds around the corner, snowstorms, blizzards, people dying up in New York. Yeah, up in New York, in their city. Check this out.
Point out that there are a lot of wins in the news this week that people in this room have not asked about because you continue to ask questions about the same subject. So let me point them out for you. Again, on Friday, the Dow shattered 50,000 for the first time ever. This week, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons came out in opposition to gender mutilation surgeries for children. They are the first major medical group to do so. A federal appeals court today, nobody asked about that, just upheld the Trump administration's policy of detaining illegal aliens, validating the strong measures that have driven illegal crossings to historic lows and sent a crystal clear message that under President Trump, if you enter the country illegally, you will be detained and removed. The murder rate, again, not a single question about this, has plunged to a 125-year low as crime falls across the board, thanks to President Trump's crime crackdown. We also saw this week national median rents have fallen to a 4-year low following 6 consecutive monthly declines, and mortgage affordability has surged to a 4-year high. Home ownership is the core foundation principle of the American dream, and I will repeat that mortgage affordability this week surged to a 4-year high, but not a single of mention of that in this briefing room today. And again, this came out last Friday, but for an unprecedented 9th straight month, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern borders.
Folks, this is what I'm talking about. By these media people tell you a story, but never the story. The story is based in facts and data, and it allows smart people like yourselves to go and form an opinion. If the crime numbers exploded, we'd all come here embarrassed. Holy shit, what'd you do in the FBI? The violent crime rate's through the roof. People are getting killed left and right. You'd be like, you suck. And I'd be like, you know what? That sucks. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. The exact opposite happened. This is despite pruning the workforce of people who didn't belong there and all the other PC public corruption stuff and things we were dealing with. And then here's why by the way, I told you yesterday about the Don Lemon thing. These people make martyrs out of themselves in the left-wing media. I want you to understand this. They live in a delusional belief system where they are like the tip of the spear of truth. They are like the truth lodestar. They are absolutely convinced, these liberal media folks, that they're lying, but for a bigger cause. I always bring receipts. We always back stuff up. Here's a clip of Joy Reid. Again, this is really hard to take in and not laugh. So if you're drinking something, I'll give you a second. Swallow it before you spit it out all over the place. Here's Joy Reid in a recent segment talking about how we're the liars and how she was over at MSNBC, now NSMOW, ABCDEFG. How when she was over there, they had standards for truth, like standards for truth about the impeachment hoax, the Russia hoax, that they still believe. She says this with a straight face. Swallow your beverage now before you listen to 20 seconds of bullshit. Check this out.
MSNBC, the artist formerly known as MSNBC, the one thing I will give them credit for is that because we were tied to NBC News, all the outrage was tied to journalism. We weren't allowed to just get up there and lie. We had a standards and practices department. So if we just had a feeling that Trump was a bad guy, we couldn't just get up there and say that. We needed to actually have evidence. We needed to have something to say that was journalistically based. Then we could say what we were going to say, but it had to be based on journalism. Fox doesn't have that. They don't have a standards and practices department. They can just get up there and say Bill Clinton is the devil, and they don't even have to back that up.
Okay, number one, I work at Fox, have worked at Fox, and been doing hits at Fox since 2012. So it's been over a decade. I assure you, they have a legal department that if you get on the air, and say, Joy Reid's parents were Martians, you're effed, okay? You're not allowed to lie on the air in an actual malice standard. You can get sued. She's just full of shit, but they believe you. See the martyr complex? Remember the Don Lemon clip I played yesterday? Don Lemon's up there comparing himself to like civil rights heroes because he went into a church with a bunch of folks who were harassing people praying. These are your civil rights heroes? They will never, ever tell you the story. The goal of this show is to give you the facts and data so you can formulate the story and an opinion on those inputs, producing a good output on your own. Folks, why are the violent crime numbers, why have they cratered? Why is the homicide rate the lowest in American history? You want me to give you some big science explanation about it? The Pythagorean theorem? I'm not going to do that. It was not hard. Kristi Noem, Cash and I, and at the DHS, DOJ, and FBI did not go in there with some big dramatic scientific formula. We said, hey, where are the bad guys? I said, I lived through this in New York City with Rudy Giuliani. A small number of bad guys, less than 1%, commits about 70 to 80% of violent crime. So if we go after those bad guys, by simple math, a lot of violent crime won't happen. Think about what I just told you. 99% of people are not committing violent crime. So why would you spend a lot of time on them? You don't. 1% are. If you find those 1% and you get rid of those 1%, put them in jails, you deport them, you are not going to have crime because the 1% is committing about 70 to 80% of these crimes. This is not hard. So I told you, no one's trying to be a hero in this. Oh, look at us. It's been done before. We just took the Giuliani model in New York and transplanted it into the FBI and DHS. Here's Patrick Weaver from Secretary of War putting this out today. You think this had nothing to do with the crime rate? By the way, this is a President Trump policy that filtered its way down. According to Pew Research, illegal migrant encounters have fallen to the lowest level in 50 years. It's in reality, they're the lowest levels of comprehensive data ever recorded in American history. By the way, thank you to the Department of War, Secretary Hegseth, and DHS, and all the partners in this. The FBI had a role, Marshals had a role. You all did an amazing job. It wasn't just one entity. ICBP, all of them. Folks, when you deport people who broke the law to come into the country, and you deport them by the thousands because they broke the law to get here, some of them are still breaking the law or are pending charges, upwards of 7 out of 10, then this shouldn't surprise you that they're not committing more crimes here. Justin, why would you not be committing a crime in the United States if you were deported? Not a trick question. Because you're not here. Thank you, Justin. Justin graduated. Congratulations. I got all this stuff. I didn't realize the guy, all of a sudden, he's like a man now. I'm on a plane with Justin one time. Justin's like, hey, man, you got some like Jack Daniels? I'm like, dude, what? Kid started working here when he was like 13 years old. Now we'll get like a child labor event. Yeah, I know. I'm kidding. He was an intern with us. He started working here ages ago. Like the dinosaurs are roaming the face of the earth. I couldn't take it. I'm like, this isn't even real. Thank you, Justin. Folks, I lived it. Why is the Trump administration crushing violent crime? Why is the homicide rate low? Why are blue cities reaping the benefits of President Trump's war on crime? Because we deported people who are not here to commit them, and then we arrested the people who are here to commit them. Here's some coverage out of Baltimore. I just picked a local outlet. You can put it in the Google machine yourself. See 1,000 articles. This was Cash and I with this Operation Summer Heat. Walked to the president. We said, hey, we want to conduct a massive crackdown on violent crime over the summer. What do you want to call it, guys? Summer Heat. He said, go get them, boys. That's what we did. Operation Summer Heat. Wasn't rocket science. We pushed a bunch of people into violent crime squads and said, go get violent criminals. How? Find a way. UFAP warrants, Vicar, RICO, whatever you got to do, go get them. Find a way into that federal nexus and go get them. Why am I bringing this up today? I'm bringing it up today because this morning I'm working out. Wasn't the greatest workout this morning. Elbows bother me again. You know, the elbow that was subject to the famous elbow story in the New York Times. If you know, you know. But today was a lighter one. But I'm on the elliptical machine, about 6:15 or so. Just get out of the freezing cold plunge where I was dying because it's still cold. And amazingly, it's been like 50, 60 degrees here for a couple weeks. And the first thing that pops up is the Axios morning newsletter. And I see this article. I'm like, oh, great. They're finally going to credit President Trump with this crackdown on violent crime that he instituted. This is great. So I start reading the article. Throw this thing up on the screen. Folks, here we go again. Just like on the economy. GDP's up. They're like, I don't know. Liberal music. I don't know what happened. I don't know. How'd that happen? I see the headline, violent crime plummets across major U.S. cities. I'm like, wow, this is great. They're finally going to tell the truth. So they give you the numbers. You can see them here. The Major Cities Chiefs Association shows declines across every major violent crime category in 2025 compared to 2024. Keep that up a second. Justin, what's the difference between 2025 and 2024? Yeah, thank you. There's a new president. It has data from 67 of the nation's biggest police departments. Homicides rates fell close to 20%, robberies 20%, aggravated assaults down 10%. It goes on, by the way. Sunbelt cities, southern cities were the biggest homicide rate decliners. Florida cities headlined the list with a 50%. 50. Orlando and Tampa, decline in homicides. Oh, well, where else? Denver, Seattle, Honolulu, Albuquerque also posted large drops. Now, listen to this. It goes on. Here's Axios again. The bottom line, folks, again, they say in Aliens, stop your grinning and drop your linen. He says I think he's past it, Bill Paxton. The media can't figure it out. Can you just be honest? President Trump started to enforce the law, put people in there who were going to do it. they just took the model that worked in New York City, made it work nationally, and just say, thank you, President Trump. No. Here's their bottom line, folks. Quote, Axios, experts aren't sure why violent crime continues to fall. I don't know, man. I don't know. What is it? I don't know. It's a knee slapper. I'll slap my knee too hard, I may break it. It goes out. Wait, I'm not done. Experts are not sure. Experts, folks. The experts. Here are the experts again. They're not sure. One study suggested that the homicide surge was driven by men and teen boys who were either laid off or so their school closed. So now it's school closings. This is unbelievable. Here's the email version of this article. Here's another theory. Instead of these Occam's razor media idiots, Occam, keep it simple, stupid. You ever heard of Occam's razor? Given all explanations except the one that requires you to assume the least. Here's the experts again. They say, folks, a complex tangle of technological and social factors has curtailed homicides. It's a complex tangle, folks. It's not just that we arrested bad guys. Here, research credits policing strategies and incarceration. Oh, incarceration, thank you. And notice they have to throw in long-term trends to make like this was a Biden thing. Gun laws. Oh, yeah, that had a lot to do with it. But here's the last, this one cracks me up. Improvements in life-saving medical care have also reduced the homicide rate. Since 2024? What the hell happened since last year? Did they invent some new ultra-modern defibrillator that resurrects people from the dead, Lazarus style? Axios. Mike Allen, just come on, man. Like, get it together. Just admit it. Violent crime is committed by a small portion of the population, and President Trump said, go get them. That's why the violent crime rate is this low. It's not a complex tangle. Oh, the lead and gasoline. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. They note the lead and gasoline, which impairs brain development. Lead hasn't been in gasoline for like decades now. I can't with these people. Then you wonder why these people vote the way they do. These absolute tools on the left. They actually believe this. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out. No, it's definitely the lead and the gasoline, man. Glad we got that out. Lead and gasoline. When was the last time lead was in gasoline? Can you look that up? Was it the 70s? I was born in 74. Definitely lead and the gasoline. Phasing out of lead and the gas. That's what. Thank you, Guy. That's definitely what did it. That's what led to the dramatic drop from last year in homicides. You guys nailed it. This is, like Joey Reid said, this is high quality journalism right here. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Nailed it. Folks, these people get their information from a social media environment I told you has a ton of positives. That Nick Shirley piece of actual journalism you saw in the middle of the show, that expose on the drug problem and dead bodies in the streets of liberal cities, you would have never seen in the 1970s or 80s. But there is a downside. Just like I told you with the surveillance state and the Ring cameras. You have to make that trade-off yourself. You are being surveilled all the time. Are you willing to give up a certain piece of your liberty for it? That's a choice you have to make. When you get on social media, the same thing happens. When you get on social media, you're giving up a certain portion of your liberty, and you have to understand, like with social media, folks, that anybody can say anything at any time. And I worship that right. I've been a supporter of free speech my whole life. But Jeremy Boring from Daily Wire did an interview on this. And when it comes to social media and children, again, I am a free speech absolutist and a supporter of it. However, I have kids too, and you have some really important decisions to make with your kids. Folks, I've seen it even in my own household and dealing with the kids in our neighborhood. A young child's brain is not ready for this influx of negative inputs. They don't have the mature neural processing power to filter out and digest what they're seeing. Jeremy Boring had an interesting take on this for all you parents out there and soon-to-be parents. I want you to listen to this, his take on kids and social media. Check this
I
out.
will say I would rather my daughter smoke than have social media.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think that we will look back at kids having smartphones and social media today with an even worse pit in our stomach than looking back at those kids smoking in the...
Yeah, I actually think the movement is in that direction in terms of schools banning phones, countries banning certain things for under 18s, etc. So I think I'm grateful you bring that issue up because I think it's really important. Hopefully, we are moving in the right direction, but there's a long way to go. I totally agree with you.
And I think that we will look back. You know, you see pictures sometimes from the turn of the century where there's like a 12-year-old boy on a street corner with a selling newspapers with a cigarette in his mouth, and you think
that's when our countries were great.
It was a better time.
It was
a better time. Maybe we need to bring back smoking for 12-year-olds.
What is that hat tip trigonometry that I see in the corner? Hat tip to, it looks like Konstantin Kiss in there. Yeah, hat tip to you all. Folks, as parents, I'm telling you as a parent of two young ladies in my life, I'm going to lay this out for you using kind of my, I hate script, but I have a background in a little bit of psychology. I'll leave it there. There are things you have to worry about with social media that create problems you and I did not grow up with if you're even close to my age. Kids were always subjected to bullying and negative comments, but the way to either, this is just a fact, when we were kids, the way people bullied you or tattooed negativity into your brain, whatever, calling you fat, ugly, stupid, whatever it may be. They were either there in person, they told you over the phone, they have to mail you a letter. You suck, and you'd have to open it up. It's true. Justin said he didn't know he grew up with the internet. Key, you're not even my age. There's no one in the studio even close to my age. You'd have to mail, you suck, you're fat and ugly. They'd have to write you a letter, tell you over the phone, or come visit you at your house. There was a social distance effect there. It made it at least a little bit difficult to lodge 10,000 insults an hour because you can't say 10,000 insults in an hour. You were going to school, you were in class. The shrinking of the social distance combined with the interconnectivity, this web-based world, enabled a 9-year-old kid to go on Instagram, post a picture, and potentially have 40, 50, 60 people, their friends, say you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, and a whole bunch of friends like it. You really think a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, his brain is, his or her brain is capable of handling that kind of negativity? You see it, all these kids in mental health pros offices all the time. I'm not telling you I've been the best parent in this regard either. It's hard to police this stuff. So first you got the interconnectivity problem where there's this deluge of negative information. Now, I'm not going to give a biology lesson, but these constant cortisol spikes, the stress hormone, it is stressful for them. Folks, I'm used to it. I've been in the business since, 2011 doing this, between running for office. I've been told everything. You should have been aborted. You suck, whatever. People, it happens. You do get used to it. It's never fun, but you get used to it. You get used to blunting the cortisol spikes. You think a 9-year-old knows how to do that? The constant fight or flight syndrome, where their cortisol levels are, their brain probably rewires itself with constant negativity. They're not ready for that. Third, you have the grooming problem. You have these disgusting pervs on the internet going into these chat rooms, grooming these kids. Hey, contact me offline. That was never possible. If a guy wanted to, God forbid, come and, do really bad things to a kid, he'd have to show up and find the kid or call him on the phone or it was horrible nonetheless, but it made it harder. Made the parents easier to intercept. Happened in my neighborhood growing up. I'll never forget. Some guy, it was bad, and they noticed he was around a lot, and it was not pretty. Finally, one last thing you have in this new interconnected social media environment, parents, you got to worry about is what's been called, not by me, but by others, the fake it until you make it effect. Listen, folks, I've been poor. I've been middle class. I've been okay. I've seen it all. You name a rung on the socioeconomic ladder, I stepped on it. I made money, lost money, made money back, wrote a whole book about it. I like to do stuff, a lot of stuff. I'm a nomad. That's just the way I roll. I like to do a lot of things. I move in, I move out, won some, lost some. That's okay. I die with no regrets. However, having been on a couple of those rungs and seeing how the top is, a lot of these people you think are super rich with their fancy stuff, and I'm not knocking, I'm a capitalist. A lot of it is an act. A lot of it is an act. You see these Instagram photos, look at me, I'm on, and you find out later it's staged. But these kids are like, wow, why don't I have that? How come I'm not a 21-year-old influencer driving a Lamborghini? Because he rented it from a Miami car rental, exotic car shop. Oh, you don't think that happens? Oh my gosh, that's like $1 million necklace. It's fake. Look, they're in a private jet, staged. I'm not telling you all of it is. A lot of this stuff is bullshit. And your kids are seeing it, and they're led to believe that this is in fact reality. It is not. It is not. I'm not pretending to be the MVP of parents, most valuable parent. I screwed up a lot. I still screw stuff up every day. There's no manual for parenting. There just isn't. New problems present themselves every day. I probably screwed up the social media things with my kids too. But be careful. Their brains are not ready for this. Man, I've been in this business a long time, and I'll tell you, sometimes you read it and you know, I'm like, is that real? And then you realize a lot of it's all bullshit, even on, with the botting and all that other stuff. All right, I want to wrap up with this story. Do you have that Wall Street Journal Ossoff story? Because I like to kind of leave you with a bit of levity, but this stuff's not funny, but it is. The SAVE Act, I'm going to keep harping on this because if we don't preserve our elections, it's the perfect bookend for the show today. We started with the Fulton County, Georgia election problems. John Solomon, his coverage of the FBI ongoing investigation into irregularities down there. Watch the beginning of the show if you missed on demand. However, the Democrats have no real argument against national voter ID and voter integrity measures. They don't. So James Freeman writes in the Wall Street Journal, Democrats still searching for an argument against voter ID. You see this fraud, this senator out of Georgia, John Ossoff, how this guy got elected, I don't know. We'll have to see. Fulton County, Georgia, well, I don't know. But with polling showing over 80% of Americans in favor of voter ID, Freeman notes it's hard to come up with reasons why you need an ID to board a plane, but not to vote in a federal election. That was particularly glaring this week when Senator John Ossoff, Democrat from Georgia, required people to show an ID to attend his campaign events after opposing an ID requirement to vote. So just to be clear, Johnny O. I didn't want to insult you. Wasn't Johnny O like a freestyle singer back in New York? And Paula, Johnny O, remember? I didn't want to insult you. John Ossoff. So you can demand an ID for people to come in to hear you talk about how they shouldn't have to have an ID to vote for you. I just want to be clear on this. Johnny, just answer that for me. People need to present an ID to come into a campaign event for you to talk about how you shouldn't use the same ID to go and vote for him. I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking questions. If that sounds like bullshit to you, it's because it is. Again, if you just tuned in now, you missed the beginning of the show. You can watch the show on demand. Don't miss the beginning about an update. The documents of now some, obviously not all, of the FBI's investigation into Georgia have gone public. Don't get out ahead of it. That's always a big mistake. But the information is really troubling. We should not have irregularities that make it past the judge and build PC for a potential criminal case. Nobody wants that. But here we are. Folks, we got Haley coming up next. She's at rumble.com/Haley, Hayley. You always have Vince at 8 a.m. Eastern time, rumble.com/Vince. Be sure to check out their show. Also, if you want your daily news fix, go to BonginoReport.com. Traffic to the site is exploded. Thank you very much. We've got a couple of new folks over there aggregating the news for the day. We got tired of Drudge Report's left-wing bias, so we did BonginoReport.com. Check it out. Bookmark the page. Sign up for the mailing list. We really appreciate it. And please go to rumble.com/Bongino. If you can do this today, we would really appreciate it. I hate asking you guys for favors, but it matters. Click that subscribe button. It's free. You can get notifications when the show goes live every day at 10 a.m. Join the chat room early for the great Bongino Army chats that go on there. I dump in there sometimes. Rumble.com/Bongino. Rumble.com/Bongino. And we were #1 trending again on Spotify. So please go to Spotify and Apple and give us a follow there on those platforms as well. I really appreciate it. I will see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Carania,
Host of Vince.
host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here
on the Bongino Report channel.
live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays. And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be right here and anywhere you find a podcast. Thanks for watching.